Good morning and welcome to SimWorld today. I am Marsh. It's getting a little dark outside of my window because I think some inclement weather is rolling in. That would be, of course, a storm, a JR storm. Good morning, JR. Welcome to the show. Good to have you on.
Thanks, Marsh. Happy to be here, ready to talk some SimWorld.
Second time JR's joined it, but at the inaugural experience on my end. Plenty to get to over on the gridiron. Let's start with the ever chaotic New York Jets, who apparently, after acquiring Hassan Reddick, that just wasn't good enough. As Hassan Reddick, despite only being in the Jets facility one time for a very well timed April Fool's Day physical and press conference, he has requested a trade from the team that traded for him back in April. He wants more money. He's on the last year of a deal that pays him about 14.5 non-guaranteed, and he says, "I need more money." JR, what the heck's going on?
I mean, break it to you like this. Trade for a guy, one day in the facility, like you said, and now he's racked up $1.7 million in fines. And you gotta pay the guy. I'm just gonna come out and say it. You gotta pay the guy.
This feels like a failure to prepare by both sides, because really what should have happened is the Jets, before making this deal with the Eagles, really, this always happens, and we see this all the time in the SWBA. Pascal Siakam's the latest example of it. You acquire a guy with the understanding of, we are putting all of this capital in because we expect to be able, we already have the framework of a deal. Maybe that's not directly to the player, it better not be, because that, of course, would be tampering, and no one does that in the SWBA. But you always have an idea of what the price point is going to be, and I don't think I've remembered a time in which the team didn't say, "This is what we want to pay you," and the player says, "Oh, believe it or not, that's exactly what I wanted to make." That happens every single summer in the SWBA. How the Jets didn't manage to understand what the price point was for Hassan Reddick is baffling to me. It feels as if Aaron Rodgers must be also running the front office with how chaotic and irresponsible of a trade that was, if that wasn't already outlined before you even made the deal with Philadelphia, who clearly now looks like a genius for getting out of what is a chaotic situation that surrounds Reddick. I don't blame him. To your point, he should be getting paid, because if you're going to trade for me, I'm expecting you to meet the price point that I have for myself.
Yeah, without question. And interesting number or figures I saw to kind of throw out there. Danielle Hunter, who just signed with Houston for 49 million over 2 years, has the same exact sack production as Hassan Reddick over the past 2 seasons. And Reddick has 50 and a half sacks over the last 4, which is fourth in the league. So I think, in a way, like I said, he is right to want, you know, that bit of extra money, but also on the Jets for not doing their due diligence, like you said. So I think he is definitely worth, a contract upgrade, personally.
I think that this is the perfect example of why there's no simple answer to, should a player request a trade, demand more money, hold out, because each situation is very unique. And in this one, while it looks foolish for Reddick to be requesting a second trade within 6 months, I again just feel like you would expect a team to trade for you to say, yeah, we're going to meet your price point. We're not, if you wanted more money and we're trading for you, I'm not going to be like, "Oh, you know what, because I'm trading to you, I'm just going to keep playing on the same amount." I still want more money. And if you've acquired me, I think that you are going to pay me said more money. And the Jets are the Jets. And apparently they don't think like that. All right, let's head to just over, hop on 91 and head a little east. We go to Boston and New England, where apparently teams are inquiring about Judon, the star defensive end for the New England Patriots. Well, I guess technically linebacker. Is this a deal? And we've seen the kind of the Patriots swirling in a couple different ways, in which most recently Brandon Ayuk said, "Hey, I don't want to be traded to New England specifically." Is now the time for the Patriots, who are certainly in probably year 2 of their rebuild, to move on from Judon?
I think this is time to definitely cash in on Judon. And, I'm kind of on the other side of the fence on this one. Judon set to make $6.5 million this upcoming season. 15.5 sacks in 2022, but only played 4 games last year. So I can understand the hesitancy to not offer him big money yet at this point, given injury concerns from last season. But I think if you're New England, you got new quarterback, new coach, new system. Now is the time to go all in on a rebuild, I think. And Judon is probably one of your more valuable pieces, to be honest.
We talked about Reddick being a star defensive end. Let's go back to the 2022 regular season because that's when Judon last played a full year. 15.5 sacks. That would be half a sack less than Reddick, and that would be tied for 4th in the league. 3 sacks behind Nick Bosa. Judon, when healthy, is still an elite pass rusher. He's still an elite defensive difference maker, and I don't blame a team for inquiring about him. I think the Patriots are in a unique situation where on one side, I would say, look, you clearly are in a position of power with Judon, with Matthew Judon, of saying, do we want to deal him or not? It's not identical, but it's similar to the Jazz situation with Lauri Markkanen. Hey, we're open to a deal, but it's not something that we have to make. So we've got to have a deal that we really like. At the same time, Judon is not getting any younger, and while I don't love how we just automatically assume one injury season means a player has injury concerns. It's not a great most recent, taste in your mouth of just playing 4 games and kind of not struggling, but not being healthy. I think the Patriots are in this weird in between of saying we've got some leverage, but we also don't want to lose it. And so I think if there's a deal, maybe if it's not an A+ deal for the Patriots, but you can get an A-, a B+ deal in terms of like what you're looking for, I think it makes sense because this team is not competing. I don't care if they are going to start Jacoby Brissett and they say, well, look, he's been a good quarterback in other spots. I just don't believe that that's the right way to go. In terms of we think we're going to contend, Drake May is going to be the quarterback for this team starting next season if they commit to the veteran starting quarterback, which, frankly, I haven't seen many teams actually do when they have a first-round pick. Brissett struggles a little bit, and then it just kind of feels like he's going to get pulled for the rookie because everyone's going to be clamoring for it. So you're not going to be competing for the AFC East. And if you can get some assets to start building a team of the future, now's the time to do it. I think the only way this makes sense is if they wait 2 to 3 weeks of the regular season. Of course, you're risking the gamble of him getting hurt. Say, what do we do? Are we sitting at 2-1 through 3 weeks? Are we sitting at 0-3 through 3 weeks? And now we're feeling a little bit better about making a deal? Or we think, hey, maybe there's an outside shot. We're contending for a wild card spot because Brissett is playing well and our defense is looking good around Judon and he's healthy through 3 weeks. I would be surprised if we see a preseason deal. I wouldn't be surprised if we see one during the regular season.
Yeah, I definitely think a deal during the regular season would be more plausible at this point. And I was working through some hypothetical trade situations in my head and, doing research. An interesting potential suitor I look at, the Detroit Lions. Now, already have Aiden Hutchinson, but you go to pair a veteran guy like Judon with a young star rusher like Aiden Hutchinson, that instantly upgrades the Lions defense that already was, a very competitive group last season. And if you're New England, I think you look at a receiver. So say a Jamison Williams or a Donovan Peoples-Jones and maybe sneak a 4th or 6th round pick out of it. Because New England's wide receiver room, 28th in the league last season. And they're projected to be dead last this season. And while you may not be able to get an elite wide receiver 1, should you go that way, you can get some depth and maybe a late round pick. And that's better than letting him walk in free agents.
Well, Judon on the last year of his deal, and you want to talk about underpaid, $6.5 million this year. Certainly a guy. Reddick, I think, is deserving of a pay raise. I don't think there's a defensive player more deserving than Judon if he's healthy. and the production that they've seen out of him in New England. All right, let's head to SimWorld Prep. We continue to get some tournament announcements. One more coming in today. This one, our first down in Miami. The South Beach Showdown will be taking place at the Palm Center, and it's going to feature the Yacht Club, no surprise there, of course, AT Aliens, Queen City Kings, SimWorld Latin America, Southeast Select, and Beasts of the East. I believe this is our first confirmed SimWorld Latin America tournament appearance, but South Beach Showdown coming to Miami, the first SimWorld Prep tournament to take place in Miami.
Yeah, I am all for it, looking forward to it. And, you know, I got 3 teams in this group that I'm really looking at for this upcoming prep season in general. The Yacht Club, you know, losing guys like Garrett Hart and Josiah Cook. You still have Darius McBride, but they're in a very unique situation where they have to replace a lot of production on both ends of the floor. And then you look at Queen City Kings, who had the absolute astronomical emergence of a potential superstar at the prep level in Marco Jacobs this past season. Can he continue to take that next step, you know, for the Kings? And then the last team I'm looking at, Southeast Select. Lose Gabe Pope, but Drake Johnson, Dexter Jackson, Brett Back, you still have a very quality group from last season coming back with even more experience. So I think if I had to pick 3 teams out of that group to say I'm most intrigued by, it's those 3.
Those are good picks. Those are good picks. Yacht Club been retooling. Koya Monroe, I believe, is the last name. Nice pickup for them here in the early stages of the recruiting cycle. So we're going to be talking about turnover on prep teams anytime you're talking about prep teams, just because of what the current landscape is. So you're always going to be needing to retool. But glad that we're finally getting a Latin America location, and no better spot, I think, for them outside of a home one would be, of course, the Yacht Club. All right, that's our show. JR, appreciate you coming on. Good to talk with you. Reminder, we've got Basketball Without Borders today at 8 p.m. on SimWorld BA TV. That is in Australia. Make sure you're tuning in. Live look at the future of basketball over, down, under. That is, again, 8 p.m. Basketball Without Borders Australia on SimWorld BA TV. Of course, all that will be live streamed as well. So thank you again, JR, for tuning in or for joining us. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you tune in tonight at 8 p.m. for Basketball Without Borders, the first of a handful coming your way. We'll be back tomorrow recapping everything that keeps going on in the ever-moving world of sports. All right, thanks for joining us on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.
This has been a presentation